It was the evening of August 2nd of 2015 at a Speedway gas station close to Columbus, Ohio, when time seemed to stand still. The air was thick with the summer heat, the sun still shining, the hum of passing cars blending into the distant murmur of everyday life. But for 31-year-old Judy Malinowski, this ordinary evening would become a moment frozen in horror, one that would change everything. In the blink of an eye, her world unraveled at the hands of a man she once trusted, her then-boyfriend, Michael Slager. As his eyes darkened with rage, an unthinkable act of violence was set into motion, one so brutal it would leave haunting scars on Judy, ones that could never be fixed. This is her story, one of unimaginable suffering, resilience, and a pursuit of justice that would echo far beyond that summer night. So before this all happened, they were on their way to the rehab center that Judy was planning to go to get help with her addiction. Judy really was planning to get help, but she just wasn't quite ready. She wanted to do a few more things before she went to rehab. She wanted to talk with her mother, her 2 daughters, and grab a new pack of cigarettes. But Michael wasn't happy about her plans, and he actually seemed to never be happy about anything Judy decided to do. Angry at Judy, Michael parked the truck at a Speedway and stormed out and headed into the Speedway gas station convenience store to grab Judy a pack of cigarettes. Now keep in mind, this area is pretty busy. There's businesses, restaurants, a bank right next door. While he's inside the gas station store, Judy decided that she wanted to get out of the truck, maybe to stretch her legs, get some fresh air, think about everything. She just needed a moment. After all, she was dealing with so much at this time. Her addiction really wasn't her choice to begin with, which we will get into more soon. And Michael wasn't the greatest to be around in her situation at the time. Judy got out of the truck and she walked behind the store, and adjacent to where she was, a bank was located. And when Michael made it back to the truck, he immediately got angry when she wasn't there, and out of rage, he drove the truck around the parking lot until he found her. He slammed on the brakes, got out of the truck, called her a bunch of degrading names. And it was there, on that day, August 2nd of 2015, behind the Speedway gas station in Gahanna, Ohio, that Judy Malinowski became the victim of a horrendous attack at the hands of Michael Slager. Hey, Crime Salad listeners, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Ricky.
And today we're going to tell you a very tragic story involving a young mom of 2 named Judy Malinowski. We will discuss her assault, her unique court case, and how her legacy has helped many other victims of domestic violence. What Judy experienced is absolutely horrific.
This case is seriously nuts. There's only one other case that we did that shocked me the way that this one did.
Yeah, just seeing Judy's face in the video that was used in her testimony is just heart-wrenching. It's just absolutely heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
The pain that Judy endured, the tears that she shed are beyond what most of us can fathom. Watching the videos of her testimony, it's impossible not to feel the weight of her suffering, the raw agony, both physical and emotional, as she clung to the thoughts of her children. They needed her and she needed them. Yet even in the face of unbearable torment and the looming certainty of death, Judy found a reason to fight. She knew her time was running out, but she was determined to make sure the man who destroyed her life would never be free again. Please be advised that this episode comes with a few trigger warnings. This narration includes descriptions of domestic violence, substance abuse, disfigurement, and death.
We might even curse.
We might. So intimate partner violence, it's a pervasive issue that affects millions of people across all backgrounds. Yet it often goes unnoticed or unreported. Although it's commonly known to be associated with physical abuse, it can go much deeper, striking a victim with emotional, psychological, and financial abuse that can trap victims in cycles of fear and control. If there's one thing that comes from this podcast, I really, really hope that it's to help raise awareness with issues like this, because it's so very crucial to break the silence and to empower survivors and hold perpetrators accountable. And as we often do, we will provide contact information in our description. So if you or someone you know needs support, please know that there is help available. No one should have to face domestic violence alone. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. And during 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million women and men.
And that is an insane number.
Yeah, it is. It's sad that this is a very common thing. Now let's give you some background on Judy Malinowski. Judy Malinowski was born on August 26th of 1983 in Ohio. She graduated from New Albany High School in 2001. And when Judy was younger, she was a pageant winner. She was crowned homecoming queen in Miss New Albany. She was stunningly beautiful and a great person to be around. She was also known for being kind and smart and caring for others. She was incredibly social and participated in community activities. And after high school, she attended The Ohio State University.
Go Buckeyes. Woo!
But things took a turn for the worse soon after high school. When Judy was a young adult, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She ended up beating the cancer and had 2 daughters that she cared for.
But unfortunately, cancer doesn't always play nice or fair.
Yeah, not all the time, and her cancer came back in 2006. In order to get rid of the cancer this time, she underwent a full hysterectomy, but things kept getting worse. After her hysterectomy, she was put on a pain medication. And unfortunately, Judy developed an addiction to opioid pain medications prescribed during her recovery from the surgery.
So this was, like 2006?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to me that she became unintentionally addicted to opioids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess what's so crazy to me is that in 2006, I feel like opioids were just thrown around. Like, I was in probably my junior year of high school, and I had a tooth removed. And they gave me, like, an unlimited amount of refills for Vicodin or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm, like, a junior in high school, and to be honest, like, I loved it. I was like, I love these pills. These are amazing. They make me feel great. Like, I'm lucky that I didn't get addicted to them.
Yeah.
Because I think I refilled it 3 times because I was like, yeah, my teeth hurt.
It's crazy. I actually kind of forgot about that, honestly.
Yeah, they really were thrown around.
Mm-hmm. They would fill up like that bottle completely. Like there was just so many pills in that bottle.
Yeah. And I think the weirdest part about it is that opioid addiction is such a huge thing, and it still is to this day. And it even leads to like fentanyl. I mean, I was recently reading that like hundreds of thousands of people a year die from fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
And the scary thing about it is you don't know what it's in because you can have such a small amount of it, because I believe that fentanyl is like a synthetic opioid. So it's like a lot stronger. So they can crush up like a pill, put fentanyl in it, repack the pill. So you think you're taking something that you know, but it's like 50 times stronger. And that's crazy. And it's seriously like, I don't know, it's just frightening. And I think it started back in like 1990 or something like that. But honestly, over like the last 5 or 10 years, we've really heard about these types of overdoses. Like we've lost, Little Peep, Mac Miller,
Mm-hmm.
I think even like Tom Petty. Like it's such a serious issue. And it's crazy to me because back then, they didn't even say that opioids were addictive. They were like, take this is fine, and you're going to follow your doctor's orders too. So I don't know. It just like, it blows my mind. And relating it back to this case, Judy got addicted to this medicine or these opioids because the doctor prescribed them to her.
Exactly. Yeah, Judy's mom stated herself that she was told by the doctor to follow the instructions on the medication, give her, these pills as she needs them. They weren't at all aware that this medication would be so addictive. And it's heartbreaking that so many people, just like Judy, they become dependent on something like this and they don't even intend to.
I don't know. I just feel like this opioid epidemic was literally fueled by Big Pharma. I mean, these are pills that were prescribed to people. They were taking them because they were told to.
Yeah, and they would even say, like, these pills are not addictive, and they would only affect less than 1% of patients.
Not to mention, you're not going to question your doctor.
No.
Honestly, I think we could make an entire podcast off of this subject. It's such a massive, massive topic.
Yeah, we really should. Let's do it. That's our next 2025 goal. Now, what's even more interesting about Judy's story is there would be a time when she could no longer afford her prescription because her medical insurance expired. So now she's addicted to this extremely addictive drug. And according to her family, it was her then boyfriend, Michael Slager, who introduced her to its replacement that is much more affordable and available, heroin.
Wow. I've heard so many stories go this way.
Yeah, not good. So while Judy was at this very challenging part of her young life, recovering from cancer, the hysterectomy, and then battling an addiction that she didn't intend, she met the man who completely altered her life and others who loved Judy. So in 2007, Judy met Michael Slager. And from the very beginning, her mother, Bonnie, had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. You know, that motherly instinct? Well, it kicked in. And it was warning her that he was bad news. There was just something about him, something she just couldn't quite put her finger on, but it lingered in the back of her mind.
That mother intuition.
Yes. And at first glance, his appearance set off alarm bells. He was covered in tattoos, and to her, it felt like a red flag was waving right in front of her eyes. But then came the doubt. Was she being too judgmental? After all, tattoos didn't define a person, and plenty of good people had tattoos. Judy was quick to remind her of that, urging her to look beyond the surface. Don't judge a book by its cover, she'd say. And with a sigh, her mother agreed. Maybe she was just overthinking it. Maybe she was letting her protective instincts cloud her judgment. Still, that uneasy feeling never completely faded. So at one point, Judy and Michael, they lost contact. And Judy, she was able to finally get the help and recover from her addiction to painkillers.
Wow, so she was able to overcome this addiction by getting the help that she needed?
Mm-hmm.
It really shows you how much this boyfriend was an anchor. You know, someone that really held her back.
Yeah, that's true. And you know what? She had such a loving family. She had loved ones, you know, they're supporting her to move her away from relying on painkillers. So she had a great support. And 7 years later, in 2014, is where our story picks up again. So Judy, she was doing a lot better. She had her daughters and a very good relationship with her mom. She was living in New Albany, receiving Social Security, disability benefits as a result of her cancer. Of course, disability doesn't usually pay the best, but Judy was able to cover rent and some of her other necessities, and her mom helped out with the rest. Judy seemed to be really close with her mom, Bonnie, who tried her very best to help Judy as much as she could. But then Michael Slager became involved in Judy's life once again.
The anchor.
So in 2014, he sent her a message on Facebook and the two reconnected. They started dating in 2015, but the relationship was anything but ideal. Things were rough from the very start. Ever since Judy went on her first date with Michael, he wouldn't leave her alone. He was constantly at her house, by her side, and the relationship was beyond troubled. To give you an idea of this, he had a menacing by stalking conviction in addition to other convictions. Like, this man did not seem to know how to leave people alone or play nice.
So it wasn't even his tattoos. This dude had a horrible past, it seems.
Yeah, it really seems like that. And at one point, Judy would even say later that she wanted Michael to leave her, but that she didn't think that he would leave. She would text her mom saying that she's hiding away from him and she needs him out of her apartment. It was more than just being around, though. Michael, he was abusive. He would hit and beat Judy multiple times, and throughout the short course of the relationship, the police were called to Judy's house a number of times. So on top of the abusive behavior, early on in the relationship, when they started to date back in March of 2015, Michael reintroduced her to heroin. He started bringing home drugs to Judy, and she became addicted once again. And get this, Michael wasn't using heroin even though he was supplying Judy with the drugs.
Wow, what a shitbag. Talk about emotional abuse. Doing something like that could only mean that he's trying to control her. Honestly, breaking her down to her weakest so that he can manipulate her. And maybe I'm saying too much, but in context, that really seems to be what's going on here.
It's almost like he knew that she was this vulnerable person who would go back to drugs, to using again, and he could use that to his advantage.
100%, yeah. In this situation, if he were a good guy, he would support her, help her, get her off drugs, right? But instead, he's fueling the fire. And that just doesn't bode well for his character, honestly.
Yeah, and considering that abusing people wasn't something new to Michael either, it definitely makes sense what Bonnie claims. In addition to the stalking conviction, he also had convictions of sexual battery.
This is just a guy that she literally did not need to be around.
Not at all. And she tried time and time again. Like we said, the police were called on a few occasions, including one occasion where Judy called the police in May of 2015, asking for help and saying that Michael was going to kill her. According to Judy, the detective assigned to her case never did anything to help her.
And I'm sure he put on all of the dramatics in the show for the police, being like, she's a drug addict and I'm trying to help her and she's out of her mind and I'm a good guy, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's possible. And also, Judy's mom later speculated that the reason the police never truly helped was because of Judy's substance abuse. Unfortunately, some people have negative views towards those who use substances, even if they're being abused and need help. And it's like Michael, he knew this.
Exactly. I mean, he literally controlled the situation. The police show up at the door. He gets to tell them what's happening, paint the entire picture, and make himself look like the good guy.
Yeah, totally manipulating the situation. So maybe the police should have looked at how many times Judy called the police to come over because of domestic disturbances. Or maybe they should have looked at other criminal history. Maybe they did, I'm not sure. Bottom line, Judy couldn't get away from Michael. And then in the summer of 2015, soon after Judy was reintroduced to drugs, she decided that she wanted to seek rehabilitation. A very tough choice, but she wanted to get better. She deserved that.
So earlier you said that Michael had, a bunch of convictions. Like I think stalking was one of them or something. Now, did he have other convictions, like other than that?
Yeah, so Michael, he had a history of criminal behavior, which included convictions for theft, receiving stolen property, and menacing by stalking that we talked about. And in 2000, he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of sexual battery. And because of this, he was placed on probation, but he violated his probation and he was sent to prison for 17 months in March of 2001. And his violations included not reporting to probation and not reporting his address as a sex offender.
Oh, okay. So a real winner.
So not like murder, but still like not good at all.
Yeah, shady dude.
And so Judy, she started to look for help. She was prescribed Suboxone for her addiction, a medicine that helps treat opioid addictions and withdrawals, which was good. But it was unfortunately expensive for Judy, and she wasn't always able to afford her prescription. She also decided that she needed more intensive care, and she wanted to go to a treatment facility for addiction recovery. But she wanted to find the right place for her so that she could get the best help. She looked at a few places, and there was even one place that Michael drove her to, where Judy went inside and even filled out all of the paperwork. But she then decided to leave. Judy didn't want to go there for a couple of reasons. They didn't allow their patients to smoke while receiving treatment there, and there was a longer program that Judy was interested in that would not only allow her to smoke, but also had a longer treatment program, which is what Judy wanted. Judy's mom had also found out that Judy was abusing drugs again, and she encouraged Judy to get help. She refused to renew the lease on Judy's apartment so that Judy could go to a long-term treatment facility to get the help that she needed. So Judy had her belongings and furniture moved to a storage place, and she lived out of hotels until she could get into Parkside, the rehab center that Judy was hoping to get help from. And on the morning of August 2nd of 2015, Judy got a call from Parkside telling her that they had a bed available, but Judy would never be able to get the help that she needed. And as for Judy and Michael, they hadn't even been properly dating for 6 months, and yet so much has happened during that time. But that day was the beginning of the end. When Judy got a call from Parkside, she told Michael so that he could drive her to the rehab center. The two left the hotel where Judy was staying. They ran some errands, drove around for a little bit, and then Michael dropped Judy off at the parking lot. Judy didn't go inside. She borrowed a cigarette from someone standing outside of the rehab center when she realized that she didn't have any cigarettes of her own. Michael then came back to the parking lot, picked Judy up. She needed to grab an unopened pack of cigarettes to take in with her. So at Parkside, like a lot of rehab centers, patients aren't allowed to bring in any already opened pack of cigarettes. Their cigarettes have to be sealed and unopened, I'm assuming still with the plastic wrap around them.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You can't bring anything in that shouldn't be there.
Exactly. So Michael took Judy from Parkside and they drove away. While Michael was driving, the two started arguing, and Michael parked at a Speedway gas station and left his truck while the two of them were still heated from the argument. Michael went inside to grab a pack of cigarettes. And if anyone wants to know what Judy smoked, it was Marlboro Black 100s non-menthol. I don't know why that detail was important, but the lawyers sure asked about it a lot. So while Judy was still angry, she decided to get out of the truck too. And when Judy got out of the truck, she grabbed the cup that she was drinking from. It was a hot August day after all, so it makes sense. And so Judy walked to the back of the Speedway gas station building to have a moment alone. There wasn't much around except for a Heartland Bank branch nearby. That detail is important. The bank's ATM would catch footage of what happened.
And God, this case would have went so different if that camera wasn't there.
Yes. So after Judy left the truck, Michael left the gas station and he went back to his truck where he soon realized that Judy was no longer sitting there like he thought she would be. Michael drove his truck around the parking lot until he saw Judy standing in the back. As soon as Michael saw Judy, he slammed on the brakes of his truck and got out. The two of them argued again. Michael demanded that Judy get back into the truck. He started calling Judy all kind of names, and the two argued for about 5 to 10 minutes. Judy was already frustrated with Michael, but as he yelled at her, it got worse. In frustration, Judy threw the drink that she had in her hand at Michael, and he reacted in a way that no one should react. I don't care how angry or soda-covered you are, you can take a shower. While Judy was standing there, after throwing her cup at Michael, he walked away from Judy and walked toward the back of his truck. The back of Michael's truck was where he kept cans of gasoline. Judy didn't know why Michael walked back towards his truck, and when he grabbed a can of gasoline, Judy was confused. She didn't understand what Michael was going to do until Michael came toward Judy. He aimed the can at Judy with a completely evil look in his eyes, and Judy knew what Michael was wanting to do. Judy was terrified. When Judy realized what Michael was going to do, she tried to run, but she tripped. Michael went to Judy and began to pour the gasoline all over her. He started at the top of Judy's head and worked his way down to cover the rest of her body while Judy was unable to stop him. As Michael poured the gasoline, some of it got into Judy's throat. It burned her throat and choked her. Judy was crying and begging for help while the gas choked and burned her throat. But Michael didn't listen. Michael continued to cover Judy with gas, that evil look in his eyes. Judy screamed for help, but Michael just yelled back, "You want to throw a cup at me? See what I'll do to you. How do you like this?"
Completely erratic behavior.
Michael had a completely evil demeanor as he poured the gas on Judy. Judy continued to plead for help, and she even asked Michael why he was doing this. Why was he trying to hurt her like this? And then Michael finished with the gas. Judy thought that maybe it was over. Her throat was burning, and she smelled like gas. So she told Michael that she just wanted to go home and get cleaned up, and then Michael took his lighter out of his pocket. Judy watched in horror. She was helpless and couldn't believe what was going on. She couldn't believe that Michael would go this far. Michael walked toward Judy, still with that look in his eyes. He was evil and outraged, yet scarily calm at the same time. He stepped toward Judy, his thumb on the spark wheel of the lighter, and then he lit her on fire. And Judy screamed. The pain was terrible, something no one should ever experience. Judy felt like death as flames engulfed her body. The fire covered her face and eyes as she tried in vain to get it off. Judy was stumbling around the back lot of the Speedway, still screaming for help and crying as she experienced the worst burn anyone could feel in their entire life. The fire felt like 1,000 hot needles were penetrating her body. She couldn't focus or think about anything except the pain and the fire around her. As Judy stumbled around trying to get away from the fire, the flames overtook her. After a moment, she couldn't see anything. She could tell that someone was still around, but she could no longer sense them. She heard voices, but they sounded far away. She lost her senses and couldn't tell what was going on around her. And she couldn't hear the paramedics coming to her rescue. In what Judy thought were her last moments on earth, she prayed that Jesus would take care of her children. She thought that she was going to die. But that's not exactly what happened that day. The next thing Judy knew, she woke up in the hospital after a coma. The investigation of Judy's assault and fight for her justice was already long underway. Even though Judy woke up remembering everything that happened, the ATM footage from the bank showed police what had happened. Even though Michael lied after first responders came to rescue Judy, his lies were quickly proven false. He tried to convince investigators that he did not assault Judy, that he accidentally lit her on fire while trying to light a cigarette for her.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, and the messed up part is the only reason those two were at the gas station was because Judy didn't even have any cigarettes in the first place. And she only had an empty cigarette box on her. Michael was the one with the cigarettes on him.
I really, really hate this guy, and he is a horrible liar.
I hate him too. And Judy would later be able to tell everyone the truth, but it took a lot of work to get to the point where she could, legally and medically. Even though Judy miraculously didn't die immediately from being set on fire and was taken to a hospital, she suffered tremendously. Around 80% of her body was burned. She was in a coma for 7 months. She had to be resuscitated 7 times. She underwent 60 surgeries. She had to undergo skin grafts, a surgical procedure moving healthy skin to areas where her skin was so damaged or missing skin. She was unable to walk and was barely able to speak.
My God.
And the website judysfoundation.org, it clearly states that she lost her ears, fingers, and most of her eyesight. She lost her hair, her eyelashes, and eyebrows. But Judy never lost her spirit, her faith, or her bravery.
Bless that woman.
However, when the detectives first came to witness her in the condition that she was in, she was aware enough to respond with a light yes or no head shake, which was Judy's fighting chance of getting justice. She fought for her life on multiple fronts. Not only did she have to fight infections in her burn wounds, but she also had to fight other life-threatening infections, including infections in her lungs and her bloodstream. When she was admitted, Judy had to have a tracheostomy, and she was put on a ventilator to do her breathing for her. She was also put on drugs to help lower her consciousness while she fought to live. One of the doctors that helped treat Judy, the director of the burn center, Dr. Jones, theorized that Judy would have died within 24 hours from her injuries without medical treatment. And in her condition, when she arrived, doctors thought that she would have died in a few hours. There were nurses who worked in the burn unit who often would see patients who would come in horrible conditions, but Judy's condition resembled patients who didn't make it. And eventually, Judy did something that surprised everyone. She woke up.
And honestly, I think this is just a testament to Judy's strength. I mean, she fought tooth and nail to get through all of this, and she did.
Yeah, she was a fighter for sure. When Judy woke up in the hospital, she was terrified. She was in the worst pain that anyone could imagine, and she was still afraid of Michael Slager.
And to me, this is what makes this case so hard, is the fact that she did survive. She fought so hard to survive. And in a lot of these cases, it's a terrible, terrible thing that happens, and then they pass away, and there's immediate closure, right? In this situation, it was horrible to see her in that condition, fighting day to day and communicating with detectives to basically get justice.
Yeah. Now, while preparing for a trial against Michael Slager in May of 2016, prosecutors, they wanted Judy to testify against her abuser, but the problem was bringing Judy into a courtroom. The prosecutors asked a judge to allow them to hold a video conference for Judy's testimony. Now, while asking the judge to allow Judy to testify via video, the prosecutors asked Dr. Jones, the director of the burn center, and Dr. Jackson, the burn psychologist, to explain why a video conference was the best solution for getting Judy Malinowski to testify against Michael Slager. Judy still had open wounds, even almost a year later.
She survived complete hell.
Yeah, but it wasn't without severe injuries and burns. Due to her open wounds and care needs, Dr. Jones was concerned about the effects of testifying in person on Judy's health. She was at risk of being exposed to new bacteria and contagions in a courtroom as opposed to a sterile hospital. While in the hospital, everyone who came to visit Judy, including the doctors and the nurses who treated her, had to wear disposable gowns and gloves. She needed a clean and sterile environment, or her life would be even more at risk.
I just don't think it's worth the risk. She's already gone through so much, fought all of these infections, and then to throw her into a public setting where God knows what's in that room. It's just germ soup at that point.
Yeah, and to prove your point, there was one time while the doctors were helping Judy recover that they moved her to a burn rehabilitation facility that was connected to the hospital. And she didn't even go outside and was actually moved to the facility in her bed through tunnels in the hospital. But even though the doctors did everything that they could to keep Judy from getting sick, it didn't work. Within 2 weeks, Judy had to be moved back to the surgical intensive care unit, and she had to be put back on a ventilator.
Yeah, I mean, that's proof that a courtroom would be a terrible place for her.
And there were still other concerns involving Judy's health, and everyone who was treating her knew that moving her to testify would not be good. Not only did Judy require frequent care, but she got tired easily. She couldn't stand for very long periods of time, and she couldn't stand on her own at all. Judy needed a lot of assistance, and she was on a specialized bed for the treatment for her burns, a bed that wouldn't even fit through the elevator of the courthouse. Then there were concerns about the mental effects of Judy testifying. The burn psychologist, Dr. Jackson, had been working with Judy on the mental effects of her attack, but Judy still struggled. She suffered from PTSD, flashbacks, nightmares, and panic attacks. Dr. Jackson helped Judy manage some of her anxiety after the attack, but she had a long way to go. She also suffered from negative mental health symptoms when it came to her appearance. So after Judy was burned by Michael Slager, the majority of her body had the skin burned off of her. She no longer had hair, and she was missing body parts like her fingertips and her ears as a result of the attack. And that would be hard on anyone, much less a former pageant winner. The first time Judy saw her face after she woke up from the attack, she refused to leave the hospital floor for weeks. Michael took a lot from her. The doctors were concerned about how testifying might affect Judy's self-esteem and self-image. She was unrecognizable, and if she were to be taken to the courthouse to testify against Michael, she might be pointed at and stared at. She still was barely ready to look at herself, and she wasn't ready to be looked at by the general public. Then there was the problem of being in the same room as Michael Slager. Several options on getting Judy to testify were proposed. Judy going to the courthouse, doing a video conference where Judy would testify in front of a jury, or having police, the lawyers, and Michael arrive in Judy's hospital room to record her testimony. Because the defendant has the constitutional right to face their accuser, there was a possibility that Judy would have to face Michael again, and it was possible that she would have to be in the same room as him. The burn psychologist had serious concerns about Judy being in the same room as Michael Slager. Judy had told her multiple times that she was still scared of Michael. Dr. Jackson said that there was a risk of increasing Judy's trauma if she were to come to court, or if Michael were to go to Judy's hospital room to face her while she testified. Both of the doctors were worried about changing Judy's perception of the hospital as a safe environment if Michael were to visit her for her testimony. And feeling safe where you're being treated for your injuries is important. Otherwise, it can hinder your recovery. And at this time, Judy's doctors were incredibly hopeful for her recovery. They thought that she might be able to one day make it out of the hospital and live a functional life once again. They didn't want to do anything that would set back her recovery, but Judy still needed to testify. And when it was suggested that it might not have been in Judy's best interest to testify, Dr. Jackson made it clear that no, not testifying would not be the better option. Even though Judy was suffering and was scared, and she would face the mental health challenges if she were to testify, she still felt like she needed to testify. Some part of Judy wanted to stand up for herself, even if she was scared.
And even after everything she's been through, she still wants to fight for herself.
Yeah. Now, prosecutors, they weren't able to record Judy's testimony right away. However, the fight to bring Michael to justice went on without it. In December of 2016, over a year after Michael Slager's vicious attack on Judy, Michael pleaded no contest to charges of aggravated arson, felonious assault, and possession of criminal tools. He received the maximum sentence of 11 years.
Which is not enough time for what he did.
Not enough time at all. 11 years. Part of Michael's plea deal was the agreement that the prosecution could revisit the case and press murder charges if Judy were to die. With that in mind, the prosecution continued to build a case against Michael. While Judy's doctors were initially hopeful that Judy would one day be able to leave the hospital and live her life again, it soon became clear that wasn't likely going to be the case. Judy's prognosis wasn't good, and the prosecution knew that they had to prepare for a murder trial even before Judy passed, which is definitely not a typical murder case. Most murder cases involve the victim already deceased, but Judy's case, it was different. It was special, and as the prosecutors worked to bring Michael to justice, Judy made history. In January of 2017, the prosecution was able to get approval to record Judy's video testimony. She was able to tell her side of the story from her hospital bed. Even though the case against Michael Slager had video evidence, Judy wanted to speak up and talk about what happened to her. The prosecutor asked Judy questions about what happened August 2nd of 2015. And Michael Slager's attorney had the chance to cross-examine Judy and ask her questions of his own about the relationship between her and Michael. Judy truly wanted to testify against Michael. I can't stress that enough. She even allowed her doctors to lower her pain medication for the 3 hours of her testimony to prove that she was of sound mind. But even though she was in unimaginable pain, you can hear her clearly in the video as she talked about what happened to her and the pain that no one deserves. She was in so much pain, but that didn't stop her from being brave, and she deserved to tell her story after everything she went through. Judy described her pain during her testimony, saying, "It's terrifying to feel this way, and that there's nothing that's okay about this." She said that her pain was something that she would never wish upon anybody. Her body, muscles, open wounds, everything hurt. Even water hurt. No one deserved to suffer the way that Judy did, and Michael needed to be brought to justice. Unfortunately, while a lot of people agreed that 11 years was not enough time for what Michael did to Judy, him getting more time in prison came at a cost of Judy's life. About 5 months after Judy recorded her video testimony, Judy died on June 27th of 2017 at the age of 33 as a result of her burn injuries. She had managed to live for almost 2 years after the attack before she died.
It's incredible.
Although much longer than the 24 hours that she would have lived without the medical care. Even Ohio lawmakers agreed that what happened to Judy was a tragedy and that she and others like her deserved better. Even before Judy's death, a bill was proposed called Judy's Law in honor of Judy and what happened to her in the back of the Speedway parking lot that caused her to be disfigured and in so much pain. Judy's Law requires that people who commit crimes that permanently maim or disfigure victims receive an extra 6 years in prison in response to Michael's initial sentence of only 11 years. While Judy didn't live to see Judy's Law passed, it was passed by the Ohio Senate shortly after her death in 2017. And after the bill was passed, it was later signed into law by the governor of Ohio in 2017, while Judy's 2 daughters were present for the signing. And the really sweet thing about this is when the governor signed the bill, he allowed each of Judy's daughters to add a dot to his signature. I know that there's nothing that will get those 2 girls their mother back, but hopefully it gave them some closure to know that they signed the law named after their mom.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Judy's family certainly suffered after her attack. Judy's 2 daughters lost their mom, and Judy's mom lost her daughter. And no one deserved Judy's suffering or death. But Judy's story doesn't stop there. So after Judy's death, a death penalty indictment was filed on Michael Slager for what he did to Judy. And Judy had a say in what happened to Michael, even from the grave. The prosecution wanted to use Judy's video testimony in the trial against Michael Slager. The prosecution wanted Judy to be heard, even though the defense filed a motion to suppress the testimony. Because Michael's defense attorney cross-examined Judy, Judge Guy Reese ruled that Judy's testimony didn't violate Michael's constitutional rights. And this would be the first time in the history of Ohio, and one of the first cases in the United States where the victim of a crime was allowed to testify via video after their death. And it was a heartbreaking testimony, but even then, Judy was kinder to Michael than he ever was to her. While the prosecution still had a strong case against Michael without Judy's testimony, and they were prepared to go to trial without it, Judy deserved to have a voice. She deserved to talk about what happened to her and what she thought should happen to Michael Slager. At the end of Judy's testimony, she was asked what she thought should happen to Michael Slager if she were to die as a result of what he did to her. And she said that she thought he should receive life in prison. And that's exactly what happened. Even though prosecutors wanted the death penalty, in 2018, Michael pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole, with the agreement that the death penalty be taken off the table. Not only did Ohio pass Judy's law to protect people like Judy in the future, but an organization was started named after Judy called Judy's Foundation. It was created to help people like Judy who experience substance abuse, domestic violence, and human trafficking. And they hope to make Judy's law a federal law. And they have been working with first responders to assist with instances of domestic violence.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Judy's story, it is a stark reminder of the devastating realities of intimate partner violence and the strength that it takes to speak out. If you or someone you know is facing domestic abuse, please seek help. You are not alone and support is available. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or text BEGIN to 88788 for confidential support. Let Judy's legacy be a reason to stand up against domestic violence because, just like Judy said, no one should have to go through this. And that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you found Judy's story as powerful as we did, please consider sharing it with a friend. Awareness can make all the difference. A huge shout out to our incredible Crime Salad Patreon and Apple subscribers. Your support means the world to us, and it helps keep these important stories alive.
Thank you for tuning in. Honestly, we appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Stay safe, take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you next week for another deep dive into the stories that need to be told.
And we might curse.